Audi just tore up the most famous deadline in the industry. For years, Audi told you the gas engine was finished, that it would go all electric, and anyone who disagreed was living in the past. Well, Audi just reversed it. No more deadline. Instead, it is launching new gas and hybrid models, pretending the promise never happened. And here is what that flip-flop tells you. The confident future they pushed on you was never a fact. It was a bet, and the moment it stopped paying off, they folded. So what did Audi admit, and why should it change what you trust a car maker to promise about the future? Make sure you subscribe, because I started this channel for one reason: to share what dealerships and car makers don't want you to hear. With your support, I can keep making these videos. Now let's get into it. Let me lay out exactly what Audi announced, because you have to understand how big of a promise they just broke. A few years ago, Audi did not just dabble in the electric future, it planted a flag. As part of a grand strategy it rolled out with enormous fanfare, Audi declared that it would stop launching new gas-powered cars after 2026, and that it would end the production of combustion engines entirely by 2033. That was the pledge. A hard date, in public, for the death of the gas engine at Audi. It was bold, it was absolute, and it was designed to make Audi look like the visionary leader dragging the industry into tomorrow. And now, just a few short years later, that entire pledge is gone. Audi has officially reversed it. There is no longer any fixed date to end combustion engines. Instead, the company just announced it is rolling out a whole new lineup of gas and plug-in hybrid vehicles, including something like 10 new plug-in hybrids. And its own executives are now saying this gives them flexibility for another 7, 8, maybe 10 years, and then they will just see how the market develops. In other words, the famous deadline for the death of the engine is dead, and the engine is very much alive. And you have to appreciate the doublespeak and how they announced it, because it tells you everything about how these companies think. They did not stand up and say, "We were wrong, we are sorry, the plan failed." They wrapped the retreat in the softest, most flattering word they could find: flexibility. That is the word the executives keep using. We now have complete flexibility, they say, as if abandoning a promise you made with total certainty is a clever strategic choice rather than a forced surrender. Flexibility is what you call it when you get to keep doing the thing you already knew people wanted, the thing you swore you would stop doing. And you need a way to save face while you do it. And listen to how open-ended it now is. Another 7, 8, maybe 10 years, they say, and then we will see how the market develops. Compare that to the hard, specific deadline they gave you before. They went from a firm date carved in stone to "we will see," which is corporate language for "we have no idea," and we are no longer going to pretend we do. The certainty simply vanished, and they are hoping you do not notice that it was never really there. So let me explain why this genuinely shakes the whole market, because it is not just one company changing its mind. Audi was not some quiet holdout. Audi was one of the loudest, proudest, most committed champions of the all-electric future in the entire industry. This is a premium, high-tech, image-conscious brand that built a big part of its recent identity around leading the charge, around being ahead of everyone else. So when a company that visible and that locked in does a complete about-face, it is not a small event. It is a signal, and every other car maker hears it. It tells the whole industry that even the true believers have looked at reality and blinked, and it gives every other hesitant company permission to quietly do the same thing. When the loudest voice in the room suddenly reverses itself, everyone else stops pretending. Audi did not just change its own plan. It gave the entire industry cover to admit that the timeline they all sold you was never realistic in the first place. And this is not one isolated company having second thoughts. It is a pattern now, brand after brand, and Audi is one of the biggest names to join it. Think about what that means. For years, a whole chorus of car makers stood on the same stage, singing the same song, telling you the same story with the same confidence, that the gas engine was dead, that the future was decided, that resistance was pointless. It felt overwhelming, like the whole world had agreed and you were the only one with doubts. And one by one, quietly, those same companies are now walking it back. The unanimous, confident chorus is dissolving into a series of embarrassed retreats. So if you ever felt pressured, if you ever felt like a dinosaur for wanting a normal car that worked for your life, understand now that the pressure was manufactured. It was a room full of companies all making the same bet at the same time and all describing it as certainty to make you feel like the odd one out. And now that the bet has soured, they are scattering, and the certainty they used on you has quietly disappeared. And why did Audi do this? The answer is simple, and it is the same answer behind every one of these reversals. The electric cars were not selling the way they promised. Audi's own electric vehicle sales actually fell, dropping by around 8% in a recent year, down to a number far below what the grand strategy had counted on. The customers, the actual people with the actual money, did not show up in the quantities the executives had bet on. And so, faced with a choice between sticking to a bold promise that was losing money or quietly abandoning it to survive, Audi did what companies always do. It chose survival and reached for the engine it had just finished burying. The vision did not fail because the technology was impossible. It failed because the customers said no, and no amount of confident corporate messaging could change that. And that is the detail worth sitting with, because it exposes how backwards the whole thing was. Audi did not reverse course because the engineering did not work. The electric cars functioned just fine. It reversed course because the customers, the ordinary people the company claims to serve, quietly refused to buy them in the numbers the executives had promised their investors. In other words, the market spoke, clearly, and it took a real financial hit before the company would listen. That tells you the vision was never built around what customers actually wanted in the first place. It was built around what the executives wanted to be true, what looked good in a press release and impressive to investors, and they simply assumed the customers would fall in line. The reversal is the sound of reality finally forcing its way into a plan that never had room for the customer's actual opinion. And the price of learning that lesson, the lost sales, the wasted investment, the broken promises, gets paid by everyone except the people who made the plan. But here's the part that should really stick with you, the part that matters more than any headline about Audi. This is a broken promise, and it was made to real people who believed it. Think about who Audi was talking to when it made that grand pledge. It was talking to its customers. It was telling the loyal Audi buyer, the person who trusts this brand and takes its words seriously, that the future was electric and certain, that the gas engine was a dead end, that the smart, forward-thinking move was to get on board now. Some of those people listened. Some of them traded in a perfectly good gas car and bought or leased an expensive Audi electric vehicle specifically because the company they trusted told them with total confidence that this was the direction the world was going. An Audi owner in the Denver area who did exactly that, who believed the vision and paid a premium to be part of it, is now watching the very company that sold him that future quietly walk away from it and pour its energy back into the gas and hybrid cars it swore were finished. That is not just a strategy change on a spreadsheet. That is a company leaving its most trusting customers stranded on a promise it no longer intends to keep. And think about what that stranding actually costs him in real terms. He paid a premium for an electric Audi partly on the belief that he was buying into the company's committed future, that the whole brand was pouring its best engineering and its long-term support behind electric, that his car was the direction of travel. Now the company has publicly shifted its focus and its money back toward gas and hybrids. So what happens to the long-term value of his car, the one built around a strategy its own maker just stepped away from? What happens to the confidence of the next used buyer, who can read the same headlines and see that Audi itself is hedging? Every signal a company sends about where it is headed feeds into what its cars are worth, and Audi just sent a very loud signal that its heart is no longer fully in the thing this man bought. He did not just lose a promise, he may have quietly lost real money, because the value of an early adopter car depends heavily on the maker standing proudly behind the technology, and Audi just stopped standing quite so proudly. And it cuts the other way too, because the flip-flop punished the buyers who wanted the opposite thing. Think about the person who loved Audi and wanted a gas-powered one, who was told, by the brand itself, that the engine was going away, that time was running out, that they had better grab one while they still could. That pressure, that artificial urgency, was built on a deadline that Audi has now admitted was never firm. So a buyer in the Atlanta area may have rushed to purchase, or felt anxious, or made a decision under a false clock, all because the company presented a bet as if it were a certainty. Artificial urgency is one of the oldest tricks in selling, and this was it on a grand scale. Get the customer to believe the door is closing, that the thing he wants is about to disappear forever, and he stops thinking clearly and starts acting fast, which is exactly when people overpay and skip the questions they should ask. Audi manufactured that closing door across an entire product category, telling buyers the engine had an expiration date. And now the company has quietly moved the expiration date to "we will see." Anyone who let that fake deadline drive a decision was pushed by a clock that did not really exist. Whichever kind of buyer you were, the one who believed in the electric future, or the one who wanted to hold on to the engine, Audi's confident, absolute messaging pushed you around, and now the company has quietly admitted it was never as sure as it made you feel. The pressure was very real. The certainty behind it was not. And here is the detail that ties a bow on the whole thing, the part that tells you exactly how seriously to take these grand promises. The executive who stood up and made that famous, absolute pledge to kill the gas engine, the man whose name was attached to the whole bold vision, is already gone. He moved on. He is not the one living with the consequences of the promise he made. It was a different leader who came in afterward and quietly reversed the entire thing. So follow that chain for a second. One executive makes a dramatic, certain-sounding promise that shapes the choices of thousands of customers, collects the praise for being a visionary, and then leaves. A new executive arrives, quietly undoes it, and the only people still tied to the original promise are the buyers who believed it and bought accordingly. The people who make these confident predictions face no consequence when they turn out to be wrong. They get promoted, or they move to the next company, or they simply retire. The consequences flow in one direction only, downhill, onto the customer. That is the whole machine in a single story. Bold promise, personal glory, quiet reversal, and a bill that always lands on you. So here is the real story sitting underneath this whole announcement, the thing that is worth far more to you than any news about Audi's lineup. This reversal is not really about engines at all. It is about how much you should trust a car maker when it tells you, with total confidence, what the future holds. Because Audi just proved, in the clearest possible way, that the answer is not very much. The all-electric future they described was not a fact they had discovered. It was a bet they had placed, dressed up in the language of certainty and inevitability to make you feel foolish for doubting it. And the instant that bet stopped paying off, they folded it without hesitation and reached for the exact opposite. That is what a corporate vision actually is. It is a marketing story built around whatever the company thinks will sell today, and it will change the moment the numbers change, and you, the customer who arranged your money and your choices around that story, are the one left holding whatever you bought on the strength of it. The lesson is not that Audi was wrong about electric cars. The lesson is that Audi was never as certain as it sounded, and neither is any car maker about anything they promise you regarding the future. They are guessing, confidently, in public, and calling it a vision. And that is who gets hurt when the vision flips, the person who took the company at its word. It is the loyal customer who did exactly what the brand told him was smart and forward-thinking, and now finds the ground is shifted under his feet. It is the family that made a big, expensive decision, a decision they will be living with and paying for over many years, based on a future that the company itself has now abandoned. These people were not naive. They trusted a premium, respected brand that spoke with absolute confidence, which is a completely reasonable thing to do. And they got taught a hard lesson, that the confidence was theater, that the certainty was a sales tool, and that when the company's bet went bad, it was the customer, not the executive, who was left carrying the consequences. The executive who made that famous pledge, by the way, is already gone, moved on, while the buyers who believed him are still driving the cars they bought because of it. So what do you actually do with all of this the next time a car maker tells you the future is decided and you had better get on board? A few things, and they will protect you every single time. First, and most important, buy the car that fits your life today, not the car that fits some company's prediction about 10 years from now, because that prediction is a guess that can be reversed in a boardroom overnight, and you are the one who has to live with the vehicle. Second, treat any manufactured urgency with deep suspicion, any message that says the engine is going away, or that you must go electric now, or that a certain future is inevitable, because Audi just showed you exactly how quickly those deadlines can evaporate the instant they become inconvenient for the company. Third, if you are considering an Audi electric vehicle specifically, go in with clear eyes about the fact that the company is now pivoting its focus back toward gas and hybrids, and think hard about what that means for the long-term support and value of a car built around a strategy its own maker is stepping away from. A car maker's vision is a sales pitch, not a promise. Trust the machine in front of you and how it fits your actual life, and never let anyone's confident story about tomorrow bully you into a decision you have to pay for today. You are not behind the times for thinking this way. You are simply refusing to let a company's changing bet become your permanent problem. Let them flip-flop all they want in their boardrooms. Your money and your driveway should be governed by what actually works for you, not by whichever future they happen to be selling this year. Audi will not be the last brand to quietly tear up a promise it made with total confidence just a few years ago. And every time it happens, it is the same person who pays, the customer who believed them and arranged his money around their word. Subscribe, and I will keep showing you exactly which of these grand corporate visions are quietly falling apart, and what each reversal really means for your wallet, so you can make your decisions based on reality instead of someone else's sales pitch.